90 pages into the book, and value to the arts, unlike what our current government thinks. But I didn't expect it to happen the way that it did. The scones. You could literally name this reading vlog Babel, or the enactment of suffering. Hello besties, it's Joel, and today I'm going to be reading one of my most anticipated reads for the year, but I've travelled to Oxford where the book is set so I can immerse myself in the experience. And so for today, I'm going to be reading Babel, or The Necessity of Violence, An Arcane History of the Oxford Translators Revolution by R.F. Kuang. And I am just so excited for it because this is literally the dark academia novel of my dreams, and I think it's just going to be amazing. I hope you're all doing very well and that you're looking after yourselves. If you've yet to grab that drink of water, please do so. You must remain well and hydrated. And if you've yet to check out my Instagram or my Twitter, I would highly recommend you go and do that as well, because I post some extra bookish content that you're not gonna see here. Okay, so this video has been in the works for a while, and I did actually attempt to do this video the last time I came to Oxford. However, between attending the Tolkien World Fantasy Lecture with Rebecca hosting it, and also going to a Babel dinner the very next night, and also trying to record a book shopping video in Oxford, I just didn't have enough bandwidth to also record this video. So it basically meant that I had to come back in order to record this. And I've just been so excited for it because the last time I came to Oxford, I managed to get my ARC signed by Rebecca, which was amazing, so cool. But I'm back again to read Babel, which basically is like a historical fantasy dark academia novel, and I'm just very excited for it for a numerous amount of reasons. One, because dark academia, it's my favorite thing. Also, I'm writing my dissertation on dark academia, and so I'm aiming for Babel to be one of the primary texts that I use. I'm probably just gonna do a vlog style video, me going around Oxford, finding some really cozy reading spots and just reading Babel. I don't know when I'm gonna give updates per se, but I know the book is broken up into 5 separate books, so maybe once I finish a book I will probably come back with my initial thoughts and feelings. And so the year is 1828, and Robin Swift is brought to London from Canton by the mysterious Professor Lavelle. And in London, Robin trains in ancient Greek, Latin, and a various bunch of other languages in order for the day that he'll enter the Royal Institution of Translation of Oxford University, also known as Babel. Babel is the world's centre of translation, and most importantly, silverworking, which is the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation through enchanted silver bars. This magical silverworking has made the British Empire unparalleled in power, and it also helps the empire on its quest to colonize everything that it sets its eyes upon. Oxford is a fairy tale for Robin, a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, but knowledge serves power, and for Robin, serving Babel and working within Babel is inevitably going to be a betrayal to his motherland. And as his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the mysterious Hermes Society, whose goal is to sabotage silverworking and stop the imperial expansion of the British Empire. And so when Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide what he's going to do. Can powerful institutions be changed from within, or do they always require violence? And just what will Robin sacrifice in order to bring Babel down? Today started very bright with the sun, and gradually, as I've been recording this clip, it's just getting darker and darker. I think it might rain today, and if it does, correction, it is raining right now. I'm very much excited for this book. This grapples student revolutions, colonial resistance, the use of translation as a tool of empire. It's just gonna be amazing. And plus, since I'm also writing my own dark academia novel, Wub Wub, I definitely feel like Babel is going to be one of the most inspirational works to me as I attempt to go through my very first draft. I even have an Oxford University bookmark to match. I got this from Blackwell's the last time I came down here. I'm really excited to go throughout Oxford and just see all of the sites, and maybe I can find some of the locations within Babel in real life and we can go explore them together. I'm gonna get to reading and also getting some lunch because I am hungry, and I'll catch you in a bit and we'll just see what happens and how I feel about this text as we go along. I'm sat in the Oxford Botanic Garden / Arboretum. I'm doing like a voice recording on my phone so that the microphone quality is still good, but I'm sat on like the opposite bench. Like the camera is like really far away. I've just been sat here for like the past hour just reading Babel, and I finally finished book 1, which is like 90 pages into the book, and there is so much to talk about with this book. We get to see basically Robin go from Canton to London and see the formative years of his education with Professor Lavelle. And it's just so interesting to see the way that Robin analyzes and critiques the society around him, but then also tries to assimilate into the British society and British culture, because during this period there was a lot of things with people of colour and trying to assimilate into British society so that their otherness would not be perceived. It's very interesting to see Kwong kind of grapple with this society during this period and see the attitudes of these people towards Robin and towards a variety of other people throughout this novel as well. I am just fascinated by some of the stuff within this in terms of the way it grapples with literature, the way it grapples with language, the way it grapples with etymology. I mean, some of the plants here in the botanical gardens have like Latin names. It had me thinking about like where the roots of these words came from and why these specific plants were given those specific names in Latin. And I mean, we're already 90 pages into this book, and already like I can tell this is going to be one of my favorite books of all time, purely from the way that it just grapples with colonialism, imperialism, not only as well like the colonial foundations of institutions, but the way that it just uses these people in order to like further the empire. There was basically a story about how this one guy moved people over to learn a language so that the diplomacy could go even better, because they know the language, they know society, they know the people, and so they've adopted it for Babel. And so basically they take children from like their savage societies and educate them in order to help their colonial and imperialist expansion. And it's just such an interesting way that Kwong has taken this, and I'm really excited to read more. And there was a lot mentioned in this as well about the places in Oxford that they go to, and so I have a few places that I want to go visit. There's 4 Magpie Lane, which is literally not far from here. There's the Bodleian Libraries, which I think is quite close to there as well, but also there's one specific place that Kwong mentions in the author's note, which you used to get a lot of scones from, and I think it's the Vaults and Garden Cafe, because as well the clouds are going grey and I'm not exactly trusting the weather right now. I'm gonna go to the Vaults and Garden Cafe and continue my reading there, and I hope you're enjoying this so far. Like, this is a very different kind of vlog for me, and I'm kind of scared because I've never really done public recording before, but I think it's been going well. Let's go explore a bit more of Oxford and then see what's next in Babel. I'll see you in a bit, besties, once I finished book 2. Hello besties, I am back. I am sat near the Faculty for Medieval and Modern Languages right now, which was kind of weird in a way because I didn't mean to come here. I finished book 2 of Babel. I have multiple things to say. The first thing is that book 2 very much grapples with the realities of colonialism very strongly, and this very much comes through our 3 main characters, Remy, Robin, and Vic, and the way that they kind of like integrate and interact with Babel in their own individual ways. And I was just mesmerized by the way that Kwong incorporates the passage of time of Babel with the terms, and it was really interesting to see the way that words can really bring power. And I don't know, it kind of made me want to become like a linguist in some way, because it just made me like want to start considering how like language can be very interesting and powerful in its own way, and maybe go to Blackwell's and start looking at like linguistic texts. Maybe that's not something I would do now per se, but like maybe in the future if I like ever wanted to like learn a new thing. But maybe for now I can just download Duolingo and start learning another language, but then I'd be harassed by the Duolingo owl, and I don't know whether I want to do that. It also made me appreciate the versatility of English as a subject, because I didn't really used to like English language, but I think reading this book really gives me a newfound appreciation for language in and of itself, more so just like the function of language. There's this one scene where like Robin basically shows up how like he's very like knowledgeable about other subjects apart from linguistics. He's very knowledgeable about poetry, literature, and various other forms of art through studying language and linguistics. And it's very interesting in a way because like especially studying like literature as a subject, you begin to learn like history and sociology and all these other subjects, and so it really shows the versatility of studying like an arts-based subject, and why like, you know, it's very important that we keep giving value to the arts, unlike what our current government thinks. It just amps up the stakes even more as Robin kind of interacts with like the main conflict of the novel, where he's basically struggling with his own identity of like belonging to Babel, but then also realizing that Babel is inevitably going to go against his heritage, his homeland, and just does he really want to play a part of that? And it's a very interesting conflict to say the least, especially as like the external influences amp up and become more serious and more heavy. And I definitely think book 3 is going to be a really hard-hitting book, especially as we come to the midpoint of the novel. Plus, with a lot of the things that have been foreshadowed so far throughout the novel, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. Probably see the inevitable downfall of Babel and potentially silver working in the country. That is my like main prediction right now. Obviously, I'm not going to say if I was right or wrong or whatever, but that is kind of my prediction right now. But it's a very, very interesting book. This book interacts with education and academia in such a way. Kwong really emphasizes the insidious nature of Babel, but then also interesting to see the way these students have this like back and forth like love and hate relationship with this, because they love learning and they know that Babel is the best place to learn. However, inevitably they know they're only tools that can be chucked away at any point, and so it's this kind of like, I need to prove my value because this is the only thing that is keeping me here. I need to grab some dinner because I've been out all day and I've probably done like 20-ish thousand steps. I'm very excited to see what happens next in Babel, and I'll be back once I finish book 3. Quick aside before I begin the next part, but I really wanted to touch upon the relationship between Robin, Remy, Letitia or Letty, and Victoire, because these 4 students are just so impactful on one another. They really come together as their year's intake of Babel, and it's really interesting to see how all 4 of them kind of interweave within each other's lives. We see throughout the 3 years that we follow these 4 students, their kind of relationship begin to change as the different years begin to take a toll on them. I really want to make up very early so I can go to Voltson Garden and just like sit there for a few hours and just read and maybe finish Babel whilst I'm in there. I'm basically here until like tomorrow day, so I don't know how I'm gonna end this video yet, and I don't really know how this video is going, but I think it's gonna be awesome once I get to like pull all the clips together and stuff and actually get somewhat of a vlog from it. But yeah, I guess until I finish book 3, I'll see you in a bit. Hello besties, it is the next morning because after the end of book 3, I really needed to sleep on it because I have so many thoughts. We've kind of have this point of no return, which I knew was gonna happen, but I didn't expect it to happen the way that it did, and I am so excited about it. One of the things is Kwong's continued critique of the way that the British Empire basically used and sold opium to China in order to intentionally harm its citizens, and it's disgusting and inhumane. I think Kwong making us grapple with this reality, it was definitely unsettling, but then it's also something that it's not surprising, but just it really reminds you about the brutality of the British Empire. And this basically later feeds into Robin, as he's basically treated as this model minority, and he's almost always regarded as white. Like, there's an instance where people are talking about Chinese people and being stereotypical and racist, and Robin is just like, hello, like, I'm Chinese, and they're like, no, you're not. Like, you're not. This then kind of feeds into Robin and his own sort of self-hatred of China. Now that he's been given a Babel education, when he then returns to China, he feels a sense of like superiority over these people. Like, he feels really guilty and almost angry with himself at the fact that he thinks this way. When he tells Rami kind of understands in a certain way what he's trying to convey. And it's just so interesting to see the relationship between Rami and Robin really go through it, and also Victoire and Letty. The relationships are very much tested throughout book 3, especially as we get to the end. I really want to touch upon the relationship between Lavelle and Robin. So Lavelle is the professor that comes to pick up Robin and Canton, but Lavelle and Robin's relationship really shifts and changes throughout the novel. There are pretty much moments where Lavelle is basically acting like a guardian towards Robin, like overseeing his education, ensuring that he's doing things correctly. There are times where he's basically acting like a co-worker in a way. I think all that Robin wants is just some form of affection from Lavelle, but it never really arrives, and there are even moments where Lavelle basically beats Robin. It is like quite horrific to see, but then also Robin takes this as a way to reinforce and motivate him towards education so that he doesn't get beaten the way that he did again. It's almost sad in a way to see Robin idolize Lavelle in this way, because we know he's never really going to be able to be up to Lavelle's standards, but then also it's like this framing of like Lavelle positioning himself as the white savior who saved Robin from cholera. And when Robin goes off his destined path, Lavelle always reminds him, oh, I took you away from China, I gave you an education, Babel gave you an education, is this how you're going to repay us? And it's almost this guilt associated with being taken from your home and given an education. And it's interesting to see this white saviorism infect Babel like a plague, because they really think they're doing something, taking these kids away from their home countries and giving them an education to further your ideas of colonization, which basically just goes against your ideas of bringing the world together. Well, kind of, you're bringing the world together, but using nefarious means. Now we get on to book 4 and 5. It is currently like 20 to 8, and I know Vaults and Garden open at 8:30, so I've got about like 50-ish minutes, and so I think I'm gonna just chill out in the hotel room for a bit, and then I'm gonna go to Vaults and Garden for breakfast, I think. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go and read book 4, and I'll be back once I've finished, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit. So shit has well and truly hit the fan. There's a lot to unpack with this part, especially like given the nature of everything that's happened in book 4. I definitely would say this is more so like the dark night of the soul and the realization moment. Also something that's basically been discussed from the very synopsis of the novel. Is violence always necessary? And we get it from the very title of Babel. This book reinforces the notion that violence is necessary in order to enact change. I think Robin is confronting the fact that like whilst he's tried non-violent approaches thus far, violence is possibly the only way he's going to succeed. There is one specific character that I am very mad at right now, but you know, I'm not surprised at them whatsoever. It kind of makes sense in a way, given the way that they were treated earlier on in the novel and the kind of way that they were excluded. But then, you know, it kind of puts the shoe, oh, the sun's gonna come back soon and I'm gonna have to adjust my camera again. But for now, I've lost my trail of thought. This book, as a dark academia novel, really sets itself up as everyone is out for themselves. It was not surprising to see a betrayal of sorts, but I see why it was necessary leading up to the climax of this novel now, and book 5 is gonna be the, I don't know what's gonna happen. There is just so much riding on this last book, and I am enjoying it so much. Robin is currently located in the vaults and garden, so I think I'm gonna go there to finish Babel, because I do need some scones, because the scones yesterday was so nice. I love how the beginning of this video is basically me going to various places, and then the second half of this video has been either me reading in this hotel room or basically me walking to the vaults. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how this ends, because this book so far has just had so much a wealth of information about the 18th and the 19th century, and also revolution, abolitionism, colonialism, but also, again, the furthering the notion of white saviorism. I just loved every second of it. Although some parts really did bring me pain, I literally am kind of used to R.F. Kuang's enactment of suffering. You could literally name this reading vlog Babel, or the enactment of suffering, an account of me reading Babel by R.F. Kuang, or something like that. And again, I came to this realization at the end of The Burning God, but I feel like there's only a few ways for this book to end, and none of them are good. It's gonna be great writing and great storytelling, I know it, but like none of them are good for the characters, and I hate that. This book has just been everything I've hoped it would be, and more. It's just serving as such a great inspiration for me as I continue drafting Wob Wob, and I'm just really looking forward to finishing this. Okay, I just don't know how. I just don't know how it's gonna end. But one thing's for sure, is that I will suffer through it and cry potentially, although I don't think public crying is on the agenda for today. I was this close to tears in book 4, so we shall see what happens. I'll be back once I finish. See you in a bit. Okay, I have 14 minutes until I'm supposed to check out, and I have to summarize all of my feelings about Babel and also finish packing, so we'll see how this goes. I was literally in Vaults and Garden, and then there was a mention of scones right at like an emotional apex moment, and like, let's just say I'm glad that I did not record my face during those things, because I was like almost like crying, because like the way that this book like climaxes, it really goes to show from like the very first page the story that we're going to get, and Kuang just like completes it in such a finality, in such like a way that leaves you astounded with like the aspects of revolution. And I think this is definitely where Kuang plays to her strengths, because Robin is ultimately displayed as a flawed character, and there are moments in which I'm reminded of Hamlet in ways. It's interesting because Hamlet and Othello are like two texts that I'm looking at for Wob Wob right now. I definitely think this is one of those books where like as soon as you finish you want to start reading it again because there's just so much to tackle with this book. I love footnotes. I didn't like it in another book that I read, but in this book, it just made such complete sense and added to the richness of the story. There were just points throughout this story where I was just finding myself very astounded, very mesmerized by the world of Oxford and the Tower of Babel. Kwong has just created such a world that is expansive and can even continue on. However, I think that this is a great standalone in and of itself. You're very fulfilled in a way. Devastated, but fulfilled. Robin, Victoire, Letty, and Remy are just 4 intrinsically flawed characters, each in their own way. We see Robin's flaws come through more prominently, but then as the story progresses, we get to look more at like Remy and Letty or Letitia's. Victoire, I feel like we did need to see a little bit more from, because I feel like she was definitely underused within the book. However, I can kind of understand why we didn't, given the fact that it would have been a lot to juggle at once without trying to make the book any longer than it is. But especially like near the end where she becomes more prominent, I definitely feel like that was more so her time to shine. And also the whole conversation surrounding colonialism, imperialism, but then also the drive to resist and enact change is just so fundamental to the foundations of this novel. But also there are elements of feminism in here as well. And Letitia really kind of like reminds us of this in the latter part of the novel. It's kind of where I feel like Letitia is playing into the white feminism aspect of things. While she like holds a sisterhood with Victoire in terms of both being women disregarded, she fails to acknowledge the racial aspects of Victoire's disregardment. And so I feel like this is where her flaws come in, because it's her inability to understand the racial struggle that inevitably leads her down a different path. It's just so fascinating to like read each and every one of these characters and see what they get up to, what they do, and I literally cannot wait to write a paper on this book. I cannot wait to pick this apart. Probably one of the best books I've ever read. There are certain books that you read at certain points in your life that change you as a person, and for me when I was younger, The Song of Achilles was one of those books that changed me. I became a lot more serious about literature and a lot more serious about writing because of that. Through reading this book, I've become a lot more aware of my position as an academic, especially as an academic of colour. And yeah, I just think like I definitely needed to have read this novel now, and I'm so excited that I have finished it. And I just want to thank Harper Voyager for sending me this arc. Thank you so much for joining me on my reading vlog of Babel, or The Necessity of Violence, an Arcane History of the Oxford Translators Revolution. I hope you've enjoyed my kind of ramblings about this book as much as I have enjoyed reading it. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I upload next. I'll have all my social medias in the description down below for you, so you can follow me on every single other platform. And yeah, if you wanted me to do any like singular book reading vlogs again, make sure you leave your suggestions down below. I know Priory has been recommended a lot, so maybe that'll be the next one that I cover. Let me know if you like this kind of format, like not me like traveling to places and doing certain vlogs, just like singular book reading vlogs in and of themselves. But yeah, I guess until the next time, bye besties.